additions to the agenda?
We do have 2 additions. Sure. One, yes.
You please tell me the next one.
So spelling?
Spelling.
Okay. On the additions, we're going to take number 2 off for the spelling bee winners. So you can just take that off. The geography we will stay on that. And then also we have a personnel piece that we added. Number 5. And I will be, I'm sure I will be changing a couple of dates as we go through, but I'll be off. Just one's a maternity leave date change, and the other one's just a coaching date. So as we reach those places, I'll mention to the board that those the dates are.
Okay, so that is corrections in the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Bruce, seconded by Cheryl. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The agenda is adopted. On to the District 741 is proud of. District 741 is proud of. Congratulations to the FFA small animal team. They placed 4th at regions, which qualifies them for state in April. Team members are senior Rachel Ampey, 7th place individually, and Caitlin Ryland, and 9th grader Ryan Lee. Excuse me if I misspeak someone's name. Allison Nelson and Jessica Walls. We also have congratulations to Jared Campbell, winner of the 7th grade geography. Okay, and we have nothing down here for public comment. So we can move on to read and approve or correct the minutes from the January 15th regular board meeting and the January 23rd special board meeting.
I'll make the motion to approve both. Would you like it? I don't have the dates right now.
January 15th and January 22nd. Motion has been made to approve both meetings at one motion. Do I have a second? Second by Lou. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. We only have one item on there. Does anyone need a full or discussion on it before we?
This is just by contract, so I recommend approval.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Dave and by Dean and seconded by, this is terrible today.
And just for the board, just to be aware of this consent, they do split. There is no additional cost, but they do split the cost to the district, so it's kind of a co-run that with advisories, so it's a split assignment.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now, on to business. We have before us the Youth Advisory Council.
Okay, I'd like to introduce my high school principal advisory group, and I know that this
Wait
evening.
for your name, and it's like, I don't find that.
Sure, students and staff.
Staff.
Yep, doing good. First, I want to thank you for allowing us to share with you what we did and traveled to Costa Rica. And Elizabeth Clausen attended, as well as Addie Cash. I was not able to get her to attend. And then her mother also went along as a paid traveler along with the group. And so we had 9 days in Costa Rica, 2 nights in the capital city, San Jose, and the other cities we went to regions, the Arenal region, which has the most known volcano of the area. My highlight of the trip, being able to look down into the volcano. As we got there, it was all clouds, and we're, well, I guess we don't get to see the volcano. And in staying there about 15, 20 minutes or so, the clouds just drifted away, and there was the looking down inside the crater. And when we were leaving, the clouds started rolling back in. So we were very fortunate there. And then in that area as well is the Lake Arenal, which is actually a man-made lake. And there we were able to go kayaking. And we spent some time on shores and seeing the different wildlife that was in the wild. Otherwise, we had spent time at the Bio Reserve, which is an educational study preserving animals of Costa Rica, how their environment can change. So in a very small area of San Jose, seeing all of these different animals that are native to the country. On to Monteverde is where we did some horseback riding, which was quite an adventure after a night of rain. The night before, the trails were narrow and muddy, and the horses were wanting to make their way, and then all of the riders trying to tell the horses where to go when they just wanted to say, let us do our job and don't worry about leading us. And one of the highlights for me was going to a frog pond with Sheila Cash, the other adult, and going to be 8th grader from Kentucky. We had 4 different groups that were with us. And we went to Frog Pond, which is where we saw the famous red-eyed tree frog, the rainforest cafe frog. And, let's see, from there, zip lining through the canopy. Elizabeth and I, on the very long stretches, you have to go in a pair. So we were partners, and over a 1.5 mile long zip on one of them, and over a 1.5 mile down. So quite the view from way up in the air. There were people that can go Superman style, but with the travel company, they do not allow the Superman flight. You have to go back on your own if you wanted to try that out. Then we were out to the Pacific coast, and we visited the 12th in the world national park, deemed to be the most beautiful in the world, number 12. And for size and the amount of animals that were there, sloths, toucans, howler monkeys, just an amazing amount of animals. Very much a different type of tour than I've taken in the past to Europe. First time for me to travel to South America, Central America. We had initially promoted it also to biology classes and students. Both of them, both Abby and Elizabeth, were also in biology, so it was a dual Spanish biology, but would have very much welcomed teachers such as Mr. Thompson and Mr. Rasmussen to have been able to take students as well. I'll let you talk about your highlights and what you especially learned from the trip.
Well, I just really loved seeing all the wildlife and how the country was so different than ours. It was like a great experience, just in a different culture. I've never been outside of the country, and it was just so different to me. I had a lot of fun zip lining and doing kayaking and stuff. It was just like, it was a great trip. I'd go back in a heartbeat. And our tour guide, he was just chock full of information. Like, we drive past places and he lists off a bunch of facts and stuff. And it was just really impressive that he knew so much. And there was a lot to learn.
Yeah, he's been a 30-plus year tour guide in Costa Rica, not just for this travel company. More on the educational aspect, we did visit a local school, and very remarkable the limited resources that they have. 2 rooms that were divided among the ages of the students, and learning that in Costa Rica you only have to go to school until 6th grade. After that, option is, do you keep going to school with future endeavors, or do you work environmentally, farming, and things like that. So, getting around was very simple because Costa Rica's economy is based on tourism. So even dollars were used for prices of things because of the large amount of Americans and Canadians that find their way to Costa Rica. Any questions from you? With knowing how the time was, I had a slideshow that Elizabeth had put together. Otherwise, on the school website, on my personal teacher website, there is a box that is for travel, and I have all of my pictures, which I think about 700 pictures of the many things that we had done on the tour. So again, thank you for allowing us to take that trip. Also a plug for our Paynesville Press on the article that was in the paper as well. I'll send this all around, written by Elizabeth herself, working with the press. Moving on to our next tour, I always have the students vote on what tour they would like to take. So Costa Rica was voted, and then for this next round, they wanted to get back to Spain. And they are requesting looking at Spain and Italy, which is the information I had given to you all. It is a 10-day tour, 5 days in Spain and 3 days in Italy, mainly Rome. Why the additional country is one, Spanish came from Latin, which of course would be with Romans and in Rome. Italian is a very similar language, same family. The time frame that we are looking at traveling is next winter break. Specific dates that we have requested so far are December 27th to January 5th, which at that point they would only miss 2 days of school, being over the long holiday break. At this time, the cost of the tour just for the travel company is $3,000, and there are 6 students that are already set to go. And I know we have always talked about now they've got 6 enrollees to make the trip a go during the school year. And they are aware of additional costs, transportation to and from the airport, substitute teacher costs, as well as any personal spending on tour. Any questions pertaining to the Italy and Spain tour that they are requesting?
Would the board want, I know you just received the information, correct? And we would bring it to the board at, like, in the next board meeting for approval, so you have a chance to take a look at it, and if you would have some more questions or something like that, at that time. Because you just, right?
Yep.
Okay, just so any questions just before you lose Angel?
How many days did you say the kids are losing for school?
As the requested dates that we have so far, 2 days. And then they request a 3-day leeway for when they try to combine it with other schools. So looking at most likely max would be 5 days of school. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Moving on to number 4,
Objection.
request to name the Adult Learning Center the Pat Ryan Learning Center.
Hello, I'm Dina Engel, and we are here to ask your request or your permission to be able to name the Adult Learning Center the Pat Ryan Learning Center. Pat, as you know, has been a member of our school district for many, many years, and she has taken the time and the dedication to go out of her way for adult education and for many other activities within our school community. So we had gotten together and had talked about a way to honor her for her memory and for everything that she has done for our school. And one of the ideas was coming up with the Adult Learning Center and then naming it for her, in her honor. So we're just coming to ask your request or your permission to be able to do that.
Well, the background is, as most of you know, Pat was synonymous with the Adult Learning Center. And we just, like Dina said, we were thinking about different ways to honor her memory, and it just seemed like a natural fit to do that. EMPA, our organization, would be responsible for all the costs that would be incurred in the building of a sign, putting together of a plaque, anything like that. But we haven't gone any farther with that until we had a chance to present the formal request to the board. And that's where we're at right now. If you have any other questions pertaining to that, we'll try to address those. But like I said, we haven't gone into the actual nuts and bolts of it until we find out what the board's thoughts are on that.
Pat volunteered for many years there. Do you happen to know how many years?
Oh,
Well, they moved here in summer of '78, I know that.
and it wasn't long after
No.
she was already associated with the district.
Exactly.
So, and her passion really was, she did substitute, she did other things, but her passion was the adult learning.
Yeah.
She really, and I can't even convey to you what that means to say her passion was that. It was everything.
Anybody have anything?
Is this something you want to take action?
No,
absolutely not.
it's just a
This
formal
is
request.
informational. I think there will come a time when we'll put it on another agenda. I think I wanted you to have some times. There are pros and cons to doing this. This is not something that the district has done in the past. And you set a little bit of a precedent, you start going this way. So I think I want the board to think about the good pieces with this and the more difficult pieces if you start naming buildings after individuals who have worked. So that is it. And I think at this point it's just informational.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dave. Dave Wilkie will do a presentation of the itinerary for the German trip.
How you guys doing? I'll try to make this quick. This trip was approved, I think a long time ago. I can't think when it was approved, but we're actually 30 some days out from moving on the trip here. And I just want to give you kind of an idea of a summary of what's going to be happening on the trip. We're going to start out on March 21st, leaving from here at 8:30 in the morning. By the time everything's all said and done, we're looking at probably the kids being up 24 to 38 hours by the time they get to bed on the next day. So it's going to be a long process to get there, but definitely well worthwhile. We get there and into Frankfurt, and then we go to Rothenburg, which was built around the 900s. It's an old Roman fortress. At one time, it survived the 100 Years' War, so there's a lot of history on it. You can still walk the ramparts of the wall. It's a little short for me when I walk through there. To do a lot of ducking, but it's a really neat old town within there with a lot of history. And it kind of brings back the Middle Ages really quick for the kids. We go from there into Munich, and from Munich there's a lot of things. Some of you might be familiar with King Ludwig, he built Neuschwanstein, which was taken off, which Disney took off of Neuschwanstein to build, to make their mark. That's probably the biggest landmark that you can think of there. But his residence was in Munich, and in Munich there's a lot of history in terms of World War II as well. Hitler doing his march there, getting arrested in Munich during the protest, being thrown in prison and coming to power, etc. Also in Munich, we're going to be taking a trip to Dachau, which is a concentration camp. Pretty sombering experience, I think, for the kids when we go there. I always get thrown back by the number of concentration camps that were there. They're basically in every city. So if you can picture Paynesville, St. Martin, Roscoe, all of those cities in Germany would have had concentration camps of some sort. And you only hear of maybe 5 or 6 in general, Auschwitz, Buchenwald, those are the big ones, but there were a lot of them out there. So in terms of that, we do get a lot of World War II history in while we're at Munich. Getting into the downtowns, they have some nice cathedrals there. There's also the Residence Palace, which is where King Ludwig and his family reigned from, so that's where they governed from within that. The Frauenkirche is a landmark in and of itself. It's kind of out in the outskirts. It's like what's that, between St. Joe and Cold Spring? What's the name of that church? The Grasshopper Church? You guys know, it's something like that in terms of that. So, and very, very ornate. When you go into the churches and stuff, there's a lot of artwork, etc. Some of it's very famous, depending on which churches that you're going into. I mean, we're talking Leonardo da Vinci, etc. A lot of famous people in some of these things. And so we'll be spending a few days in Munich. While we're there, we'll also end up going to the salt mines that the Austrian-Hungarian Empire became famous for. That's how they ended up getting their power over time, was from actually the salt mines and salt used during the 16th century and beforehand, used to preserve meats and stuff. So you can imagine how important that was for their economy, etc. Also in the day so we'll actually go into one of the salt mines. We go in, we get into miners' costumes and kind of do some things that the miners would do, go down some slides, take a little boat ride across a lake that's inside of there. Depending on which one we go to, there's some other things that they come up with. But they're kind of neat to go through and kind of get an idea of the industrial side of some of that earlier times. We'll also end up going to Salzburg Castle that day as well, and visiting Salzburg, which is Mozart. Yeah, it's Mozart. There we go. So Mozart will be is his house where he grew up in Salzburg. We might have an opportunity to go in and see that, but there's also Salzburg is also the castle that the Sound of Music used used a lot of their visuals from around the Salzburg area. So in this trip, we've got 14 days here. I'm only on day 5 in Munich. And we end up actually going to 4 different countries, all German speaking. We'll be going to Austria, which is where Salzburg's at. On our way to Switzerland, we'll go through Liechtenstein, which is a really small country. It's almost like a city-state, or a city-country in and of itself. And then Switzerland as well. So we are visiting 4 countries on this trip. We've got a lot packed in here on the touring part. We end up on our way to Switzerland. We go to Neuschwanstein, which is the castle the last castle that Ludwig built in the 1800s. And at that point in time, that was one of the most up-to-date castles in the world. They actually had plumbing and etc. there. So it's amazing to see some of the things that came across at that time. As we make our way into Switzerland, we'll go to Lucerne, and we'll have an opportunity there to go to Mount Pilatus, which is, I think, the highest point in Switzerland. And we're hopefully going to be able to take a cable car up there. It's kind of difficult to predict whether or not we're going to be able to do that, because in the Alps, the weather varies from day to day, and with the cable cars, if the weather is too bad, they shut them down for the day. So it's kind of a 50-50 chance whether or not we'll be able to go up there. If we don't, we'll find some other activity to do during that time. So we'll spend a couple days there, and then we end our touring part in Heidelberg, which is it's another 16th century, 17th century castle that was burned to the ground by Napoleon's troops at one time. And So it's got a lot of ruins. It's one of the ruined castles, so we'll get the little aspect of that. From there, the nice thing with this tour company, I put the recommendation in last time, is to have a stay behind or a stay ahead to allow us to do our homestay with this company. The other company that we normally use works better with larger groups, and it's hard to get a decent price at the lower groups with lower numbers in our groups. And last time we were able to do our homestay, and the kids really missed that. And it just wasn't feasible with just 4 kids at that point in time. But this time we've got the homestay is in Ulm. It's scheduled from the 29th to the 2nd of April. I just got through booking the train trips from Ulm to, from where we're staying at on that last night, which is Ludwigshafen, to Ulm, and then Ulm to Frankfurt the day before that we leave. So we need to be in a hotel before we leave so that we're able to get there. Otherwise, it's an hour and a half to try to get to Frankfurt, and if your flight's leaving, you just don't want to chance too much time with that. But kind of some of the logistics, I think, we were able to try to keep that price down for the kids that got in there earlier on. It came to about, I think, $2,800 for the kids that signed on early. We had a couple sign on late, that got into about $3,100 overall cost. It's a 14-day trip, 4 countries. We're missing 6 days of school right now, but I know Mr. Hall just informed me that we might be missing 7 with the additional April 1st in there. So if that comes to fruition, it'll be 7 days. And of school, I think the benefit though of the trip for the kids is priceless, to see the amount of history, etc., that these guys are supposed to. I know this is probably you were telling me about your daughter going back from a previous trip.
These dates, because she's going to be there.
Is she?
And she might be in Ulm when the kids are there.
That
She
would be
might be in Unity. So
That would be neat. And when we go to Ulm, they generally put on some kind of activity for us when we're there.
Maybe transfer your phone
Yep.
number so she can Skype you and find out.
Yeah, actually, and that's one of the things that I'm hoping to do is to be able to Skype 1 or 2 nights while we're there. So hopefully I can get all the software set up in my classroom, and we're going to be able, hopefully, looking at Skyping back here with the kids here. So kind of give them a hands-on view of what's going on and things like that. And a daily kind of update, which would be kind of neat to see. The beauty of technology these days is kind of neat to see the things that you're able to do. I think that's about it. Did you guys have any questions of me at this point?
How many chaperones are going?
It's myself, and then Mrs. Whitcomb is a paid parent going. So we have 2 people.
how many kids did
I have 8 kids, so there's 10 of us total. And it's double last time. So we had 4. We had 4 last time, which was tough. And that was, I think a lot of economy driven. So we get into this, and it's starting to come back. It's from the days of when we had 44. We had big trips. Yeah, the last one, that one was 44, and I had 17, and then we went bam to 4 through our economy thing. And so now you're starting to see those numbers starting to pick back up. And it is expensive. I've had a number of kids do some fundraising. I've got, let's see here, Michael Ludwig, I think, raised between the matching, because the German club matched 50% of what they raised. So with the match he ended up with about $1,500 that he raised for the trip, which when you put that down to $2,800, that cuts that cost down quite a bit. So I can't, I always stress with the kids, fundraise, because the club will try and match if we can. So, and I think we did over $2,500, I think, in matching. Or not with matching, but overall, the kids that are going, about $2,500 is what they raised for their trip.
And we're learning, we can't do the telephone, but we can email, so I will send you her email.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Some
So
of
yeah.
the kids might Facebook with her anyway, so.
It's a surprising how much those kids really keep that relationship, and that's one of I was really hoping that they would bring something back. By having the low numbers that I had, by them adding that additional stay behind, etc., caused a little bit more of a headache for me because I have to do all the planning for it. But because they don't help me with that planning, but, you know, it ends up being worthwhile to be able to do that. And I have 2 companies, because if my numbers get high enough, then I end up going to ISC, which is what we used before too, so. But yeah, I can't stress enough, it's really neat, especially like when, in a year like this, we had the German kids here in September. And then, you know, some of our kids are gonna go back and stay with them now, and things like that. And the relationships are, I hear over the years, it's, you know, they are lifelong relationships that they come through with that. So yeah, definitely, I'll keep that.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll move on to number 6, review and consider approval of the notice of desire to negotiate with Education Minnesota Paynesville area.
Is that time of year?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, who's second? Oh, I'm sorry, Lou. Yes, Lou is second. Move on to personnel. Review and consider approval of maternity leave for Arlene Webb effective from March 25th.
We're going to change the date. That will be March 4th to the end of the school year, so.
And March 4th to May, to the end of the school year, May 5th.
moved.
Motion's made by Lou, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kevin. Sorry, Kevin. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Review and consider approval of resignation of Amy Jasmer Flanders effective at the end of 2015 contract year.
Amended.
Wow. I never thought I'd be on the board when that happened. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and I feel I should say we are definitely going to miss her at the schools.
She has been a wonderful positive force in our building, both through English academically and her theater program. She's going to be very hard to replace. I don't know that we'll be able to replace her, but for somebody to start filling her shoes. I will miss her deeply as part of our staff.
Review and consider approval of the following athletic assignments for 2012-13 school year.
Madam Chair, we're going to change that date to today. He has now done everything. And is completed things. So rather than February 11th, it will be February 12th.
We have Aaron Kranz, head boys basketball coach, effective February 12th through the end of the 2013 boys basketball season.
So he'll no longer be an assistant, he'll be a head coach.
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
He has completed everything that
Yes.
we do.
Okay. No further discussion. The motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Review and consider approval of the following teachers' lane change requests.
These are by contract, so I would recommend approval.
I would also suggest maybe those who want a consent agenda in the future,
Do that.
just because it is contractual.
Okay, true.
Could I have a motion on this?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Damon, seconded by Cheryl. All those, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Hearing none, motion made. Now we'll move on. Oh, we've got one more person. Number 5, review and consider approval of retirement of Jane Leisman effective at the conclusion of the 2012-13 school year.
We've known this has been, would be coming, we just got the official letter prior today, so.
So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? It's another one with a lot of years here.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. The one thing I would just like the board to know, with the 2 resignations in the English department, obviously we'll have some new people coming in, but we will have the honors position to fill. And with that, we do have to have somebody that has a master's in English. So within those 2 positions, that is something that's going to be very unique in hiring of that position, as well as we will also need to fill a theater position if we want to continue to offer the theater class, which has been a very high interest for the student body. So we will probably get going on those 2 hires ASAP, or I would like to.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we'll go on to the informational reports. Mrs. Flora.
Well, I think you've heard almost everything that's going on in our building. So I do really appreciate my student advisory teams. They do keep me informed. They kind of let me know how things are going from the student perspective. So I do appreciate your time in letting them come and share with you the good, the bad, and the things that we'd like to see changed. A couple of things coming up. We'll have conferences in the building tonight. And that is kind of the beginning of the scheduling process for primarily the high school. Our middle school scheduling is fairly set because you still go by numbers and class sections. It's the elective classes, like you heard, how many numbers and what classes kids are picking. That will change the FTE, so it's kind of the start of that scheduling process. Also, our National Honor Society candidates, their packets were due today, so we'll be getting to you for a banquet for them in the near future. Will be coming up as well. And then I do want to emphasize, I did hand out, this is more of an FYI, the teachers union, and the teachers have been very positive with the advisory program. The students have been very positive. We kind of put it in, do we like it enough to try to, change it and make everything work together? So this is a beginning draft that I'm going to start having conversations with all the different parties involved, which is the teachers union, obviously students, the bus company, the elementary. So this is definitely a beginning draft. In order to accommodate the students, what they see as an issue is the 3 minutes in passing time, giving back the teachers 2 minutes that they had for instructional time, and accommodating kind of the kitchen, because they've had to pitch in too, because we took away some of their time. The initial draft here would look at not changing the teacher contract, but looking at changing the amount of time between student and teacher contact time to 15 minutes, because usually our day over here starts at 8:15 and it ends at 3:10. You'll see in this schedule, it would start at 8:05, would be the beginning of first hour, and it would end at 3:15. I have given this to Mr. Wilkie, who is part of our teachers union group as well. They're going to talk about it because it may have some implications with negotiations. I would like to, have some of those discussions before the board starts in on their negotiations and that piece. So we'll work hard on this side. I do see it as a very beneficial part of the program for students. Now I would like to work with making it logistically better in our building. Okay, so I'll just keep you posted. So it's only an FYI, but if you have comments, please email or give me a call or something like that. Okay. And I think that's all I have, unless you have specific questions on something over in this building.
I have one quick one. The students were really interesting, and they talked about the iPads in one place, and then another place, somebody mentioned they were missing their textbook. It appears to be kind of a similar thing. And I know technology-wise, maybe these iPads don't work for us, but will sometime anybody, or have we ever analyzed what that would be to?
The cost? That would be
Yeah, I was
associated
talking
with
to
it.
one of the instructors last fall, and he says his textbooks are like $90 or $110 or something.
They're There is some advantages to going to electronic textbooks. You save the money, you know, you can download them, and if you lose the device or if the device breaks, you can just download it again. So there are certainly some advantages to looking at electronic versions. The electronic versions right now have not been as good as some of the other ones. California, for instance, has gone to completely self-made textbooks. They're all electronic, but we've looked at them in the past at different places that I've been, and they're just not quite to where they need to be. They're kind of a good resource, but they don't offer all the things that a textbook would. Do I think we should continue to look at that as an option? You bet. Because in some ways it could save dollars.
And I do think looking, and Mr. Hewitt knows, putting some money through our capital budget to bringing more iPads into the building, both for teachers to use for presentation purposes, as well as having a couple carts so that they can use them intermittently in their classes and for class projects. I think that would be a huge benefit to our programs here because it brings those outside resources here. I also have, it's our language department's year for their curriculum study and ordering. And I know one thing that they are going to be looking at and bringing forward is iPads for their classroom instead of textbooks. They're going to do a budget analysis as well as a curriculum analysis. So we will probably together be learning with our language department as that progresses. You know, and again, it will be a training or you know, to use them. Like you'll hear some, you know, we don't have 8th grade science textbooks. They do have something available to them online, which is the actual textbook. But right now, they don't feel like it's a textbook. So it's a shift for them as well.
Do they have actually access to the online?
Yes.
All they would need is access
They
to.
each have a code.
The dilemma though that comes into play is when you get home, depends upon what you as a family have for internet service.
Internet
If
access.
if it's a DSL line, it's gonna take forever to download all that stuff.
Right.
And then if your computer is a little bit older, it might not have the software capabilities of some of the stuff. So there are dilemmas with at-home stuff.
It's not a-
But if you have everything state of the art and you have a high-speed internet at home and stuff, it's the slickest things in sliced bread because you are able to download and look at everything right there.
So it's
but-
not, you know, some it works great, some it doesn't. The same thing with the electronic textbook, you can either have them downloaded there and then, or kids would still have to go out to a web resource, which our science book does, so you have to have internet. But you can also have instructors, and this is what Mr. Wilkie and Ms. Gavy are looking at, is creating their own textbook, so it's totally on that iPad. So you would not need an outside internet source per se. So there's, you know, a lot of different paths here, and we're just starting to look at it as well as other schools are. You know, I'd say we're kind of in the middle of the path as far as where we are at technology-wise. But there's also a budget there that we'll all need to discuss as well.
What are the pros and cons between an iPad and a Kindle?
An iPad, well, I guess I haven't looked at the new Kindles because they have so much wireless. Have
They
you
come
looked
down
at
to the number
that?
of educational apps that are available on the different platforms. Mac by far, I think, has the most educational apps. Lots, I mean, the Samsung Galaxy would be another thing to look at. I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, right now in our department, we're just looking at what the difference is between the iPad and
The textbook.
the textbook. We haven't looked at what the Samsung Galaxy or the Kindle Fire, for that matter, have.
Next step.
I think part of the problem maybe there is how many educational apps are available under those devices and under their platforms.
And certainly the other platforms are starting to get caught up a little bit, but Apple really had such a fantastic head start that they're just so much further. Apple does also have their own software for instructors to make their textbooks if they want. You can using other platforms the same thing. So I think we have to weigh the pros and the cons. The other piece is that technology just gets so old so quickly now that we're gonna have to look at all those. I know that Lori and I have had discussions about students bringing their own. You know, if they do that, that adds additional issues that you have to deal with as far as students bringing their own technology into the building and having policies that will deal with that and, all those things. So I think we're just gonna take our time as we unfold this and see what we believe is the best, and we'll keep the board informed as we go through this.
And, we have the bandwidth issue, what are we gonna be able to access, how much, as far as the speed. And I know even between my two kids, one has an iPad and one had wanted nothing to do with the iPad because he found the little notebook that has the more of the computer access was much more feasible for what he wanted it to do in the educational setting. So I think looking at both of them.
For some of the kids,
Something
that little
that's
phone
maybe
screen
important.
is all they need to pull things up. It would drive me crazy, but, that's what they're used to using.
We have a lot of teachers that are finding that the smartphones, kids are doing their research. I know my own son for Mr. Wilkie's last project for Spanish, that's where they sat in study hall with the smartphone and they did all their research. So, it's a question that we need to just keep moving forward, but look at each move that we make and not just make it because the school next door has it.
Because you're never gonna be able to keep up with technology. So we have to really think before we spend the dollars on those types of things. I'm not saying we shouldn't spend money on it, but I think we want to make sure that we have a good plan in place to ensure we get best bang for the buck. And tomorrow, the technology is not useful anymore. I mean, because even an iPad, you don't have flash drive on that. There's a number of issues with the iPads too. So
Not only that, but now you got students using it, how you gonna go about, you need to put a policy up. So there's the other logistical piece with that goes along with that. So I mean, it's a process that I think administrative wise and board wise, you guys have been very, very forth with helping us start to move in that direction, which is really nice to see. But yeah, there's a lot of questions, and I think as a district, coming together and trying to figure out what's going to be best down the road. It's going to be an interesting little adventure here in the next couple of years. In terms of that was going to be.
It sounds like something we should turn over to the technology committee at this
Yes.
point, and we're going to move on to the elementary principal's report.
All right, well, right now, we're celebrating I Love to Read Month in February. We've got a number of different activities going on. We have the book exchange that we do every year, and that's going on during conferences. We also have our Scholastic Book Fair that's going on that helps raise money to purchase more things for our media center, computer-based, and also books. On the 28th, we have an author coming in, and the name I'm drawing a blank, I believe it's Chris Kurtz. He's an author from Washington. He's written a number of children's books that we have in our media center. He has a niece who teaches in Wilmer, and he is coming to Wilmer, and so we're splitting the cost with Wilmer and New London Spicer, and so he's going to come and spend the morning with us working with groups of students. So that'll be exciting. We just finished our second practice MCA math test, and our scores look really good. We took it at the end of October, and we really excited about where we are. We've seen a really good increase. With that, we are developing a computer-based after-school intervention for students who did not meet the standards when they took the practice test last week, and a permission form is going home to every student who did not meet, and teachers are going over that with the parents at conferences this week. Diana Dene is our new 5th grade teacher who is a minor in math, and she's going to be teaching that program, and it starts in March and will go through May 2nd to help prepare students for when we take the MCAs in the middle of May. She is also starting, we don't do enough for our gifted students, and so she is putting together a program, Math Masters. I'm not sure if you've heard of it before. It's pretty common around Minnesota, and what's going to happen is the top 5 math students, as determined through our second round of practice testing, will be our Math Masters team, and they'll work mostly during March and working on math It's kind of like a math athletic team. And then in April, they'll go to Sartell and they'll compete with about 50 or 60 other schools in a Math Masters contest. And it's really a neat experience for the kids. It's only, $85 to be in it and a few extra fees there, but it's really something for our upper students that we're pretty excited about. So, any questions for me? I need to get over to conferences. Thank you.
Activities coordinator, Max.
I don't know if you still have it in all your paperwork, but I handed you winter participation numbers. Basically, that's just the numbers of all the sports that our conference offers, the activities, and where Paynesville falls in with the other schools. If there isn't a number for some of the activities, for instance, ACGC never gave me their dance numbers, but they don't typically, it would just mean that that school doesn't offer that particular sport. And I had given the board those numbers in the fall. Otherwise, some of the stuff that you heard from the students are things like the floor, that is currently in our 5-year plan for resurfacing the floor, some of that stuff in capital. The scoreboards that they talk about, just be aware that that's, I think, like $60,000 to do that. And I don't know if that takes care of any installation fees or service to do that. That's the one that they referenced from Minnewaska. That was a $60,000 scoreboard that they had up. The one thing though about our gymnasium that we tried to get in the 5-year plan that I don't think's in there, but the padding along the walls is something that certainly could be improved at a lower cost. It's starting to rip. It doesn't really match our school color. It's a dark and bad. And then like in the middle school gymnasium, it would appear that we are Belgrade Brute now Rosa because it's all blue compared to green. So those are things, the sprinklers on the 7th and 8th grade football field, I know that we visited with about that already, and there's other fields that are bad too that they just haven't shared with you because they haven't went through their spring sports yet. But the softball fields for junior high and the softball fields for the varsity could use some help as well. Right now, currently just working on getting the spring travel schedules and things like that lined up, as well as finishing up scheduling for next winter's events. Had a little bit of an issue because our school today, the website that houses the company that does the West Central Conference website, that's perfect for sending out schedule updates and all of that kind of stuff, has been having some issues with their servers, and so we've been having games just disappear off of our schedules. And there's some needed information when something like that happens. So we've had some changes of schedules that we haven't been able to communicate as best as possible, but for the most part, people can get text message or email updates when that service works correctly. But I just thought of that when they're talking about technology stuff, just so you're aware, sometimes technology is great, but when it fails, you might not have a textbook to teach your students too. So that's something. We have a home section wrestling match tonight, so I'm going to buzz out. We have skin checks and weigh-ins and things like that. We're getting close to the end of the winter events, so we're starting to get to tournament time. Does anybody have any questions for me? This is kind of a flurry, and then we get ready to do it all over again in spring. But
Max, baseball, just around the corner. Are they going to have a scoreboard, you think?
yes. Well, we have a new controller, and last week I didn't go out when it was below 0 to test if it works yet, but I have a box. What Nick is referring to is our scoreboard panel last year. Between different organizations that use it, anyways, it didn't get put back in. May or may not have got struck by lightning, but then it also had water in the panel and it was wrecked. So we did have a number of baseball games at the end of our season that we didn't have a scoreboard controller to operate. We do have a controller in my office. Hopefully it works, but we'll get out there and test it now that it's not below 20.
Thank you.
All right.
Matt, back there behind the camera.
Our spring brochure with our new program will be mailed out a week from Saturday. Quite a few new activities in there. We're having a great new year in the fitness center. We just added Health Partners as an insurance partner for the reimbursement program, so We've been trying to get them for about 5 years, and now Buyer Built switched to Health Partners, and they had enough pressure to get them to add us as a facility, so that was a great thing. Our first annual Winterfest is this Saturday. Great activities there, so if you want to check out the details are online. And then our episode 8 of BNC TV will be broadcast Thursday. So, any questions? Thanks.
Thank you. Me. The first C committee meeting, when I first saw this, I thought, wow, I had one on Friday. I didn't know it had been already.
Well, it had been, you know.
Yeah,
just-
with the
yeah.
schedule changes. The last C meeting that I went to was on was on January 25th. The next one is this Friday. At the last one, we had Representative Mariani, Chair of the House Education Policy Committee. He was the opening speaker there, and then the other speaker was Dr. Bill Morris, who does all the surveys, and it's a very interesting lilt on his company. Literally, that's what they do. It's called Decision Resources Limited. It's a market research firm, and that's what they do is take surveys. You can get, and he kind of does one that's general for education and presents it to the CEO of education every year, which I do have a copy of if anybody's interested in seeing it. Or you can go on the C web page. All the handouts are on the C page. I'm going to encourage everybody who's on the board and everybody who's in our school district to go to the C web page.
In fact, the pizza piece also is on our website.
Yes, that's the other thing that they touched on again at the C meeting, which they're going. That is on our webpage already.
It is.
So
correct.
good,
Yep.
because in March, I believe, is
The
when it is our district, will be our district's time, or they broke the state down into areas, and they're trying to get representatives from all the districts so that through the whole legislative session, that there's people there, parents from the communities pushing the point that we all kids need to be, have equal access to education no matter where they're from. It shouldn't make, every student should be able to get the same education in Minnesota no matter where they happen to be born at or their parents live at. So they wanted to do something with that. And they've got a really cute way of doing it. If it's on the webpage, go and watch the video. It's very short and very to the point, and it's, sorry, that's my phone, we'll ignore it.
I think another piece that, because I'm going to try to attend that one this Friday, also that meeting. I'll be curious to see what they say, because I did make an initial kind of run on all the changes that would take place with Governor Dayton's new budget proposal. He is talking about giving $50 per year to schools, but he's also looking at changing the ratios for each of the grade levels. And in the end, when we took a look at that, we lose about $5,000 if they go to the new one. Even giving us $50 per year, we still end up losing money. So I am curious to hear what they have to say about that piece.
That was also passed out at the meeting that I attended, and there's a run. I have a copy of the runs here. I'll hand down to you. It's runs on what was big. There were the I can't say this. The chairperson for the House Education Policy Committee. They had this PowerPoint that they also had a handout for, basically explaining what the governor's recommendations were for the early childhood to 12. And then there's runs in the back so you can find out where your school stands and what it's going to. These are also on the C webpage, so you can pull them down and read them yourself.
And I mean, it is a long way to go before that final budget is set, so I think we need to let it shake out a little bit, but I certainly have some concerns right now.
Well, the C organization doesn't want us to let it shake out. They want us to push for what we need as school districts, because there's, so this is another chart. This is a chart that shows what the annual taxpayer costs if we had a $1,633 school levy per $100,000 home value. And it has all the schools that are listed, that are part of the C organization, and then a separate group kind of off to the side. And Paynesville, for that amount of money, would, on a $100,000 home, would pay $400. But if I was fortunate to live in West Tonka or Hopkins, I'd pay $150, $151. And some of these is just crazy, the difference. For instance, in Royal, for that same amount of money, their district would have to come up, or would charge every taxpayer, or their taxpayers here, $515. So it's hard enough for school districts to get levies passed, and then when you realize that your community might be go ahead and supporting their school, and it's easier to get someone to support it when it's only going to cost them $150 a year as opposed to $300 or $400 or $500. So they want representatives, so we'll be looking for volunteers to take down there too, and Deb Griffith from the C organization and some of the subcommittee, they have pizza boxes made up with a copy of this and the little copy of the video and little conversation to have with your representative, so they make sure this keeps getting put in front of them so it doesn't get pushed to the back burner, so that when you're busy trying to juggle finances around to cover this person really wants and that school really wants, it's all got to come. It's not just the amount of money, it's how it's being distributed that we need to work on.
And that'll be in March, the legislative visit, and you don't need to worry, somebody will meet you there and they will take you wherever you need to go, so you don't have to worry about that. But we are looking for individuals, so if any of the community members are interested in attending that, all they have to do is give me a call.
And Madam Chair, is there information on the C website then too, if somebody wants to talk to the representative, that's all right out in front of them?
You can go onto the C webpage and click in your school district name or your zip code. I mean, they connect you with whoever, or the phone numbers for Brad and Deb Griffith, who is the community liaison person. They welcome phone calls anytime. Literally, Brad will take phone calls while he's in the legislative, he just walks on into the hall. So. And then I will.
Can I add something?
Sure.
I gotta tell you, just being new on the board, for the referendum we just passed, that everybody poured their hearts out to get that done. We probably, if it was equal in education in the state and it was distributed fairly, probably would be looking at about another $500,000 potentially coming to our district with no change in the dollars the people are spending. So the metro schools are getting a huge sum of state dollars. It's kind of reverse of how you explained it, but that was the one that really got to me. For somebody here in this district that's paying $140, if they were in the metro, this school, and if we were in the metro, we probably would have got another $500,000 from the state to provide equality in education. It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. Okay. Well, like I said, the next meeting is Friday. And then?
And can you get to the website by typing in SEE? I don't think you can you?
You
Yes.
can, if you just Google search it and go SEE.
SEE.
There'll be a couple other things that'll pop up, but it'll explain.
Schools, equity, and education.
That's how I've had to
Yeah.
do it.
But like you said, you're safer that way because it is the internet, depending on what filters your computer has. You'd be amazed at what you can see.
It may also be something that we could, because I think it is something.
We do have a link on our webpage.
We do.
We have a link to
Do we have a link
the
to
pizza
it?
box thing. Did we put a link on to the seed? We did, didn't we? To the seed
Yeah, look.
piece. If we don't, we'll
Whatever
get
you
it
send
on.
me.
I was gonna say that would be something to make it easy for people to have those communications.
I know we did have the film the presentation that Deb Griffith made to here at the auditorium when Paynesville and Valley, both communities were invited, and we had very, very poor turnout, which was heartbreaking because there was a lot of information, and the few people that I talked into seeing it or listening to it afterwards were just, they thought we should make it mandatory that everybody had to, but.
And we could certainly invite C out here to present to the board one evening and have that on our YouTubes.
You know, on how the equality part, you know, when it's switched around for so much over the past years, it's craziness.
The link is right on our homepage, right under your article area.
Thank you. Okay, then I will move on. That was C. Now I'll do the district-wide staff development. And that was on the 7th. And the electronic things, all of their minutes are all on the web. And most of the staff has, I don't know if they're from the school or they're personal, but they have the iPads. I still print mine out and scribble on it. And I'm not even sure, because I know they sent me a link to this, but is this in the public?
Yeah, I believe the public.
You can go on there
is
to
that.
district-wide staff development and the agendas.
So
and
if not, we will get.
They can get
Yep.
the minutes.
the minutes and the agendas.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's all I do. They've been trying to keep the meetings down to an hour and a half, and it goes really fast because they stay on task. The meeting was in the elementary media center this time. They switch around because we still do not have a single chairperson. They've divvied it up, so, which was, I thought was working really good, except for some of the paperwork, because we have like a 3-ring binder like that, because a lot of the paperwork is still paperwork. It's not, everything's not electronic yet, so things have to be switched in and out of there. And sometimes not everything gets put in the right place in the 3-ring binder, so they can't wait till everything gets electronic, so you can just hit the button and it'll go where it's supposed to go. But in the meantime, went through the district logs. There was only a couple of grants and requests. The district logs are also on the web, so I did not print those out. There was just a couple items changed. It's just a running list of where they've spent their monies. Monies is follows percentage stays in district-wide, percentage goes to each of the buildings. We have a authority over the district-wide, but they just keep us updated as to where they are in individual buildings. There was a district-wide grant for, district-wide also is for staff that covers both schools, like the school nurse.
And paraprofessionals.
And paraprofessionals. And our nurse needed to go get some training on blood-borne pathogens.
That's exciting.
There's not a lot of staff here, so but I remember those classes when they did them at the beginning of the school year. Yay.
We still get to do it.
Then they went through the goals. Were brought up in old business. The elementary school has their goals done. No, the high school has their goals done. And the elementary school was retyping and would bring them to the next one. They discussed representatives for the meet and confer. There was some scheduling or calendar stuff that they needed to work, figure out. They want to do some surveys before they set up a date for the meet and confer, and before they can set up a date, or before we can get volunteers, they need to know the dates, because a lot of people that serve on this are already coaching. So if you want somebody to do something, ask the busiest person. Well, a lot of people that are on staff development are involved in other after-school activities, coaching. So trying to schedule things for these people is tough sometimes, but they get it done. And then they discuss the plans for the March 28th in-service. My observations sounded like was gonna be the top of the.
That'll be
list.
a half day, and I would certainly invite the board to attend that. I'll get you the information on exactly when it's going to be presented. It'll give you a much better understanding of the piece that we're going to use to do walkthroughs and possibly be tied into our teacher evaluation piece.
Teacher and principal evaluations.
As that all shakes out, so.
Also, we could, if the board would like, tape it, so if there is somebody that can't make it, let me know, or just let me know now, I should tape it, and then we could have the DVD.
Why don't we just tape
Should we
it?
just plan to, so if you can't make it, because you guys' schedules are very busy, we'll make some DVDs too.
Because even if the teacher can't make it or it's not.
Exactly, that's what I had one of the teachers ask me that earlier.
And then, for new business, they discussed plans for the April 1st in-service, and then,
Well,
there was a lot of.
yeah, but that could change.
There was a lot of discussion, I chuckled when I got the second call that said school was called off because wanting to make up June 3rd was not a real popular item on February 7th. Now that there's another day, I have a feeling it's gonna be even.
Yeah, I'm gonna, and certainly the board can give me feedback when you get a chance to think about this. Right now, my intent is to make April 1st a student contact day. We've missed 3 school days now. You know, it was bad enough when we had missed 2 school days, but we've missed a 3rd. And certainly I'll look for input, but if in getting none, my intent is to get a letter written and get it out to the parents saying, just because of the number of days we've missed, April 1st will be a student contact day. I think the other 2 days, staff will need to make up in some form or the other, but there was discussion at our staff development whether we did some things after school hours to give the staff a chance to make those hours versus coming on the 3rd and now the 4th of June. So I think there's still some discussion. We're going to want to get some feedback from the staff on what they'd like. Plus, we need to look at what options we have. So that will take a little bit of time to shake out. I think the biggest piece right now would be the April 1st and getting that out to the parents that will now be a student contact day.
There was considerable discussion with the group that we had there,
Yep.
and there was a lot of options. Things that they've been trying to fit into other in-service days, mini sessions led by in-house people. We're not talking spending lots of money bringing people in. These are things that people that are already on staff had wanted to share with other staff, and so.
Kind of made me look at a smorgasbord of things that staff could do to make up the big time. But again, I want to emphasize the community would be outside of the normal everyday school day. All right.
And Amy Flanders will be the chairperson for the next 2, actually. She's ending out no, I guess not, it's the next one.
This next one, she's done.
In March, and then she's done. Okay, now we're going to the admin meeting.
Okay. From my point of view, it's just hard to believe it's February, although every time I go out and see more snow and have to get up bright and early in the morning to make a call, when we're 2 hours late, I'm reminded that it's February. Again, I've already started to talk about this. I really am going to recommend that we have one more student contact day, that be on April 1st. I'm not going to recommend at this time that we have 2 student contact days at the end of the school year. Those are not the most productive, and we certainly have things that we can use to help for staff development for the staff. But again, if you have any input, you can head that my way. Otherwise, my intent is to write that letter and get it out to parents as quick as possible. We have a school board retreat, just a reminder, that will be on February 19th. It'll be from 10 to 2. It'll be in the elementary school conference room. Went to a meeting concerning, Bruce and Cheryl also went to that concerning negotiations, and also they went through the new health insurance standards that we're going to be putting in place. Again, I will say it will be an interesting journey. I think right now we have more questions than we have answers for that, but it will have could have a direct impact depending on how things go on the budget of the district. Enrollment, we're staying pretty stable. We're down about 2 right now, but I was reminded when we talked about it in the office that in past years we've been down a lot at this time of the year. So being pretty stable at this point is certainly a plus in our favor, that we have not lost the kids in there are pretty, staying pretty about even. Just a fundraiser report, just be aware that the FFA did a fundraiser, fruit and beef stick sale. And they made just about, they predicted they were looking for, expected 4,000, and they made $4,831.06. Wow. So they did pretty well on that fundraiser. C, we've already talked about. Part of the staff development I've already mentioned is eye observation, and we'll tape that so that if you can't make it, but I think it would be good for you to look at that, because it really will be kind of the introduction to all of our staff. Some are very well aware of it because they've been trained in it, but to see what I'm recommending, the path that we go down, really all administrators are recommending, and right now the staff that have been trained are pretty positive about it. But we have a lot of work because we have a teacher evaluation tool that another year we're going to have in place, and we need to either work with the teachers on this to come up with something that we can all agree to and live with, or just fall back on the state one. And I will continue to tell you, based on what I see and hear about the state one, it would not be to our benefit to go down that path. Attorney selection, I mentioned this before. I think I'm going to send out just a notice to a few of the attorney firms that I'm aware of that work a lot with school pieces, and just ask them why we should hire them. All right, now that there's been a break off from the one that we've been using, there's a couple other ones. I think I'm just going to ask them to send me their fees and why we should pick them as our firm, and then I think we should have a discussion at a board meeting on which firm we want to go with. All right, so that'll be coming down. Health and safety was just brought to my attention by a board member that we do not have a board member on that committee. So I don't know if somebody's interested in being that, but it would be something I think that the health and safety right now is an interesting committee to me. I really think we need to have some discussion in the committee about what we want to be. I think because we talked about anything from plumbing to sidewalks heaving, just a list of things that, staff are, have a little bit of issues with. And I think we need to decide really what the purpose of that committee is. And if it is to talk about the fact that we have sidewalks heaving and we're worried about, staff or students tripping over those heaved sidewalks, then we need to, that's what the committee should do. But if it's about other things, then I think we need to have a discussion. I'd like to have, at the next meeting, we were a little short last time, have a discussion with the committee about that. I see you as a possibility then. Okay, I'll put you down as the board rep for that committee then. We also talked a little bit at our administrative team about maybe at least having a discussion about crisis team. In a number of the districts that I've been at before, we've had a medical response team, for instance. It would be very expensive to train every one of our staff members to do CPR and to have first aid, to know how to exactly use a defib, although those machines are pretty easy to use nowadays. But I do think that it would be well worth the discussion to have about training a small group that we could possibly cover if a medical emergency took place, where we needed to do something in regards to either the CPR or even defib if we needed to. So I think we'll continue to have that discussion.
We have one in this building.
You do have one here. And I don't think the elementary does right now. So it would be nice to have that and make sure that we have a group of people that are trained to do that versus the whole staff.
We only have one.
No, we have a team.
They have a team in high school right now. They don't have one at the elementary. So I think we need to look at having one of those in place at both places.
And how it all works.
Yeah. So we'll certainly be talking about that. In regards to the parent-teacher, one of the reasons we haven't met with the calendar is our last group of parent-teacher conferences to get over. Then I'm going to send out just a quick survey to the staff and ask them, because it was a dramatic change from what they've done in the past, possibly also to the parents, just a quick survey to get their input, and then that'll help us talk a little bit more about what we want the calendar to look like. Again, there's not going to be a lot of options. If we want to finish before June, then it's a tight calendar. So there aren't a ton of options you're going to have. If you had a week, like some districts have, for a spring break or something, then you can be assured that you're going to go into June. I have not seen any indication by either community members or by staff members that they would like to go into June. So by doing that, because it tightens things up so tight, there won't be a lot of options where we put our early dismissals, where we put our parent-teacher conferences, those types of things, some discussion. But as far as when you start to when you end, it will be tight. So just be aware of that once parent-teacher conferences are done, then we'll send out something to get some information on that. I did, for this year, I mentioned to the board that we are under budgeted a good $25,000, now probably a good $30,000 for lane changes. I did send out an email to the staff asking for that information for next year, and I was pleasantly surprised that I got just a number of responses back saying they were either going to or they were not going to. That's all information that does play into the budget, so I was very happy with the staff that they were willing to share those types of things with me when I sent out the email. That will help us develop a better budget for next year. There have been some talk about paperless board meetings. I think it is something that we should explore. You can recoup some of the cost by going paperless because you don't have to mail out things to board members. Do I believe we would probably recoup every penny? Probably not. But it would also be, I think, easier for the board, and I think it would also be easier for the community to be looking at things. So I think it's worth at least exploring. I think that I'll be sending out an email, there's a second piece to that the board will have to think about, and that's whatever tool we're going to use, whether it's an iPad or whatever. I think it would be difficult to say we're going to buy everybody an iPad. But there are ways for us to do that, and I'll send out an email and just ask for some input on that if we're interested in going down that path. You know, there's pluses and there's minuses for it. So, and I think I think on the MSBA website, there are instructions, there's a training that so you'll be able to see it in action a little bit more, and I'll get you a link for that. And let's see, I think that is it.
I have one more item I'd like to share with the board. Anybody else have anything they need to share with the board? This is our, just on our employee recognition and care committee. I split these in everybody's packet. It's pretty self-explanatory. The other page is what we've done since September for this year and where we're at. I did not put everybody up in February. I should say usually President hits everybody up in January, but she wasn't here, and I'll be honest, I just forgot it. So that's where we're at with that.
And one last thing, I do want to thank you, Dip, for making cookies for the students today.
Yes, thank you very much.
And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Happy